G'day leaders, Tarun Stevenson here for the Tarun Stevenson Leadership Channel, and in this episode I want to talk about the response because is not an answer when your team asks why, and you need to try and figure out how to respond to the question why in more personable and more direct terms. Come on, let's get into it. Okay, we're going to talk about the response because inevitably as a leader, we will always have people that ask why we want them to do certain things or why we're operating in a certain way, and because is just not a reasonable answer, and it's not going to give you the response that you want from your team. So I want to give you some suggestions of how you can approach this in a more constructive way as a leader. Don't forget, my goal setting guide is free and you can download it by clicking on the link in the description below. If you enjoy this channel, please hit subscribe, and we'd love to keep you up to date on a weekly basis with our leadership tips. All right, let's get into it. So inevitably when we lead, we have to make requests of our team. We have to direct them in particular ways, and the question why always comes up eventually. You will have team members who will not be satisfied to just take the directive. They'll want to know the motivation or the reason behind the directive. You may have a system or a way of working, and for some of your team, just telling them do it this way won't be enough. They'll say, okay, tell me why we have to do it this way. Couldn't we do it another way? And inevitably, this question has to be answered. And as a leader, if our response is just because I said so, or because that's the way we do it, then you will find that the response that you get from your team will be less than ideal. When people are asking why, they're not trying to be malicious, they're not trying to be insubordinate. What they're trying to do is they're trying to understand the makeup of the request that you're making of them, and they're also trying to understand the payoff for their compliance. And so I would encourage you in two ways to talk about the reasons why you're doing what you are doing. Let's take, for example, just a simple request like a system. If you're implementing a system in your team and you've said to them, hey, this is the way I want you to do it, and somebody asks why. Well, the first why is always the pragmatic makeup of the situation. Okay, why do we do it this way? The reason we do it this way is because we have found that when we do it this way, it gives us these results, it gives us this level of consistency, it helps us to avoid these problems. And you know, if you've taken time to develop systems, there's usually good reasons for those systems, and so take the time to explain the reasons behind the system and why it's important to follow it rather than just doing it any old way. The second aspect of why is more a personal thing. People will ask why, what's the payoff for me? And people generally will be more engaged, more motivated if they feel like there is a good reason behind what they are doing. And as a leader, it's really important to talk about how this affects you. Okay, look, how this affects you, the individual, is that when we do it this way, it's going to cause less friction with other team members. If we follow this system, it's going to cause less friction with me as the leader, because I have certain expectations of outcomes, and this is going to help you get those outcomes without us having the same conversation over and over again. It's going to help you because it makes your job simpler when you follow the same procedure each time. It's going to make your job simpler and more consistent. And also it's going to help your team. When everybody's doing the same thing, you have less people asking questions about what went wrong. You have less people asking questions about what to do. You have more consistency and better output and outcomes from your team. And so it's going to help your team, and it helps us as an organization. It helps us as an organization to be efficient. It helps us as an organization to be producing a quality standard that we expect in a consistent way, and it helps us as an organization to look after our customers or our clients or whoever that might be. And so what you're doing is you're explaining the different relationships at different levels and why that impacts the individual and why they should be following it. Now, I will say this, is don't always assume that the asking of why is necessarily to circumvent. Sometimes they ask why because they may see things differently in a better way, and there may be something you can learn as the leader. And so what I would encourage you to do, if somebody comes to you and asks why, you explain your reasons, for the system and how it affects everybody, but then give them an opportunity to speak. Well, tell me what you were looking to answer here. Did you have a different way of looking at this, or did you have a different idea of how we can approach that? And be willing to listen to the feedback. One, it'll make people feel heard, and when people are heard, they want to work with you more. But also, it gives you an opportunity to figure out whether your system is exactly the way it should be. Is it at its optimal level? Is it working the way it should be? Because your people are going to have a better idea of that than you. And so allowing them to ask why, allowing them to question the system may yield better results. In previous videos, I've talked about the Toyota way. And one of the aspects of that is the why, the 5 whys, where any person on the production line can stop production at any time if they identify a problem and they need to try and find a better solution for it. And they're encouraged to ask why 5 times. Why is this a problem? Why is this solution not necessarily what we need to be doing? Why do we need to fix it? And so they keep probing, they keep asking the question why, and they're given permission, no matter whether they're the janitor or whether they're the CEO, they're given permission to speak into that process. And that's why Toyota's systems are so tight and they produce such high quality time and time again. It's because they give permission to their team to ask why. So don't be afraid of why. Don't use because as a response, because it's a cop-out and it won't motivate your team. Give them a chance to speak. Take time to explain your reasons, and the outcome will be that you have a team that's more cohesive, more willing to go along with you, and more willing to produce the results that you're looking for. All right, I hope that was really helpful for you. If you've enjoyed this, why don't you check out my Leading for Success course. The link is in the description below, and I'm sure that if you want to go deeper in your leadership, that course will really help you. If you've got a colleague that you think would benefit from this, please share it and give us a like and a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Tarun Stevenson. Lead well.